I like.
In this episode, we are full on spoilers for both the novel and the film.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
I'm Jen.
I'm Bill, also known as Matt Stagger.
And I'm the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back to What the Adaptation, your YouTube channel reviews adaptations from one format to another. This week we are continuing on with an experiment outside of our genre wheelhouse. We are continuing with Pride and Prejudice. Tonight we're starting the 3 episodes we're doing and covering the BBC 1995 version with Colin Firth and Jennifer L. I hope I pronounced your name right.
I think it's Ely.
And Ely?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
As you can see, we've got Rebecca back for this tonight. How you doing, Rebecca?
Good, I'm excited. I love Pride and Prejudice, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Couldn't do this without you. And Jen, of course, how you guys doing?
Good,
Bill?
very good, very good.
Doing excellent.
So, we are discussing the first 2 episodes. I don't think they had titles, just episode 1 and episode 2.
Yeah.
The screenplay for this was written by Andrew Davies and directed by Simon Langton. Episode 1 aired the 24th of September 1995, and episode 2 on 1st of October. So, what do you guys think of this so far? This miniseries?
Yes, that's the. It's not my absolute favorite, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it very much. It's the most true to the book, but I guess we're going to get into that. That I think of all of them that have aired, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I'll let someone else go.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, especially compared to the 1947 version. Was a little dated for me. I did enjoy it for what it was, but at the same time, I did enjoy this better. They seem more human in this one.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, their motivations are a little clearer, and you get where they're coming from a little bit more in the miniseries than we did in the original film we watched. So, liking it so far.
Hi, Rena. What was yours?
I'm really enjoying it myself. This is actually my second. Well, I'm watching every episode twice. So second and third time watching this miniseries, and I rather enjoy it. And I enjoyed it more than I did the book the first time I listened to the book, and it was a Amazon. It was Audible Classic, so it wasn't the Rosamund Pike version. It was one of the ones that was free in their free library, and it's just terrible. It's just bleh.
Yeah,
I didn't
not
enjoy
a
the
great
book that
narrator.
much the first time.
Yeah. The Rosamund Pike one, like I said, I tore through that one. The original, I could not get through.
Don't blame me one bit. And I think I ended up because I read the book after I saw this, and I think I ended up liking the book more even then than I think I would have if I hadn't seen this version. And it was it must be the 95 version that was the first one I had seen. I have vague recollections of sitting down and watching Pride and Prejudice back in the 2000s, so I'm guessing that's what it must have been. But yeah, I like this one. And I think the first 2 episodes are a good start. We're not quite to the point where I'm going to start shouting justice for Darcy, but
No.
Yeah,
These people knew how to party, huh? Their parties were wild. Like how? I mean, I'm like out here in the country. Like, how do you guys know this many people to invite to the posh party? I mean, it's not like these were all just the peasants. I mean, these are all upper class. Like, there's a lot of people here. I'm like, y'all come from miles around. I guess
those parties were pretty good, and those parties are pretty good until Mary gets on the piano.
Oh well, you know, there's always.
I was wondering where all the poor people were. I'm like, where are the poor people?
Outside.
They're outside.
Yeah, they're outside. Last week, the first episode, to see the guy drinking and doing a little jig and then falling into the water trough.
Yeah.
This time, it was when the dogs were howling.
I had a note about those two little scenes that they just give us this little glimpse of what's happening outside the parties.
Yeah, and I don't remember if they do that in each episode. If we see a little moment with the lower class people, you know.
I don't remember if it's an every episode thing. I'm gonna watch for that now, actually.
Yeah,
that's in this one. I took note of it. Like, I mean, I've seen this a bunch of times, but I was just watching it. I'm like, it's interesting that they included those because it seems a bit random and it doesn't take a lot of time, but it was still a choice. It was a choice to be like, let's put this in for some reason. So.
Honestly, I think it is to make it more relatable to kind of today's society a little bit more. So if you look stiff the 47 version was and hold it up to this one, like I said, they're way more believable as human beings in this one.
Yeah.
They can process, almost saint-like in the 47 version, even in their flaws. So I think this one, they did a much better job. And with the letters, we don't get the letters so much as we get people reading the letters and things like that. They did a really good job of sort of adapting that.
Yeah.
I think with this miniseries that definitely did not come across in the previous one.
We haven't seen too many so far, but we did get the Mr. Collins letter. So we got one. Shorten that up. Although what's so funny, we're jumping ahead, but in the Mr. Collins letter, there's some added lines that aren't in it, where he's saying, I'm gonna I'm gonna switch here and then I'm gonna hire a private coach or whatever. That's not even in there.
Why?
No. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was just to give this flavor of he's someone who gives an absurd amount of unnecessary detail. It was completely unnecessary to write that in a letter. So I don't know.
Admit.
It fit with his oddball personality when he is introduced in episode 2, and I'm not going to lie, that is my favorite actor so far.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love everybody else.
He's
because I believe his name is
David Bamber. If you like
David Bamber,
check him out on Rome. He plays Cicero on Rome. He's got he's got a great voice too, which is fitting because Cicero is supposed to have had an excellent oratory voice. But he played Cicero. That's the first place I ever saw David Bamber.
Yeah, he just the mannerisms and the voice. It's just so good for
that weird smile he does. I'm just how does he do that?
And I don't know.
Even get my mouth to contort like that.
It's creepy, but at the same time, well-meaning, and that makes it a little bit creepier. So it's just something to it. He nailed that aspect.
Yeah. And apparently, Mr. Collins just has to have a very bad hairstyle, no matter what.
Yeah,
terrible hairstyle.
Sort of comb over.
Yeah, in this case, yes.
Winged thing, and it's got awful. I love it.
It's so bad.
It looks like he's trying to go for about 20 of those Superman S curls on his forehead, but just all across, and then they're plastered on from sweat. They're plastered on with sweat because it's always sweat. He's always hot and sweaty.
Anxiety.
Yeah. He's so good at this part. He's better than the guy from the movie, the black and white film. So, So obviously that we've already heard a little bit about some changes, some additions, but what other changes, good or bad, that you picked up on from the book? And I'll be honest, I couldn't really tell you. Even though I just read the book, other than what you pointed out, Becca, I don't think I can pick any out.
It's small. I mean, so there's some additions. So there's a scene in episode 1 between Jane and Elizabeth where they're kind of just talking about their ideas of marriage, and that's not a direct scene in the books, but I really like that scene.
And the opening is a change. The opening,
the hat and fighting over that. Yeah.
Well, and we see Darcy and Bingley, you know, at Netherfield as like the very beginning. But it kind of fits because, you know, the opening line is just this sort of like disconnected like narrative commentary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, you know, I guess, you know, the arrival of Bingley is the inciting incident. So, you know, it just starts right with that. And then the line, I liked how they did give Elizabeth the very famous opening line of the book.
Yeah, I like how they wrote that in with him.
It was a nice choice to get that in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, there are other. I don't know. I mean, just like little additions. I feel like there's like little additions, and then of course there's lots of like little omissions too. But I think for me, the little things that are cut, you don't tend to notice it too much. It tends to still flow. There's not really a lot of obvious like overt big omissions so far. But like I like the additions. Some of them are funny. Like Mr. Collins like being so embarrassed when he sees like Lydia in her undergarments. It's just that's so funny. Yeah.
That was funny. Interesting thing about Lydia, I can't remember the actress's name. She's actually a year or two older than Jennifer Ely.
Oh, is she?
And
is she?
She's like 2
really
years,
young.
a year or two.
Yeah.
Just one of those faces that looks young, I guess. You know, always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I just happened to be looking people up, see how old they were when you know when they did this, and they were both like in their late 20s when they did this movie.
Okay, so she's supposed to be 15. I mean, I don't think she looks 15. I will say,
no.
but I
would have said 19.
Yeah, but like her face is young and her manner. I mean, she's a good actress. You know, she plays that really well.
Lydia off.
Yeah.
She's a dang good Lydia.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, definitely.
To me, Lydia's got to be one of the hardest, like roles, other than Mr. Collins. Is you got to have him right. Other than that, I think Lydia would be the second hardest role because Darcy, oddly enough, as long as you could just act composed and stern, and you can get you can slide by a lot of that. To me, I think I don't know. Someone else may have it.
For me, Darcy would be the hardest to cast because
Darcy's hard. Yeah.
Okay, he reminds me of my son, who's on the autism spectrum.
Gotcha.
Just his inability to sort of take social cues, because throughout there are misunderstandings. He doesn't understand social cues, and you would think somebody from that higher standing would. So I definitely got that vibe from him, especially in the book.
Honestly, the entire story is down to him not like I was thinking about this as I was watching this. I'm like, if Darcy had just danced with Elizabeth when Bingley's like, go dance with Elizabeth, this whole story wouldn't have happened. They just probably would have liked each other. Maybe the whole thing wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a boring story, but it's all down to that. It's all down to him just being like, I'm not going to do that. Why do I need to do that?
Yeah.
But with him, you have to strike that weird balance of standoffishness without making him the antagonist, because you want people to like him. So kind of finding that duality in the right actor. And honestly, Colin Firth kills it.
Pattinson.
He does.
Pattinson would be good.
I mean, he kills it.
Colin Firth is amazing.
He's incredible.
He has to do a lot sometimes when he's not talking, because Mr. Darcy is like taciturn. He doesn't talk sometimes. A lot of times, that's a thing. So he's got to do a lot without dialogue sometimes, and he does it.
Agreed.
I think Robert Pattinson would actually make a good Mr. Darcy.
He would do that well. You just have to age him up a little bit and give him a little bit more maturity, because he's a little bit, even though he did a good job, and other things I've seen him in other than Twilight, he's coming into his own now. He's getting better roles. Let
him do a few more Batman movies and he'll be ready.
Say Batman, really changed him a lot. I really was surprised.
Tenet, he was good
in Batman.
Yeah.
But he, as long as he had that maturity, someone to put his shoulder pads on him even more or something. I don't know.
He's got the glower down though.
Yeah, that's it. That's the word. Glower. Yes.
Yeah. He was really good on the Road about Jack Kerouac. He starred in it with Kristen Stewart after Twilight. He was really good in that.
I didn't know they did work together again. That's funny.
Oh yeah.
So, any other changes anybody wants to mention, bring up?
Honestly, there's nothing that leaps off the screen that's like a big egregious change that's like, oh no, this breaks things.
It's very
That doesn't
subtle.
happen.
This is
so
far, this is very, very accurate to the book.
Yeah, it is. There's another little scene added, like Darcy's like watching Lizzie play with the dog. It's like, it's just there's some little like
from the upstairs window. Yeah.
Like
I love
scenes. And
I loved our first introduction to Liz because she's walking and then looks around, sees nobody's watching, and then just breaks into a run because young ladies aren't supposed to do running like that. Be seen running, and it just seeing the joy on her face as she took off in that run. I just liked that.
Yeah, I was gonna comment on that too. Like, there's just lots of little scenes, where she's just like enjoying her like solo walks, and yeah, you kind of just see her personality. Or the other one is when like she's like walking to Netherfield and like just she just like jumps in the mud and she's like like yeah.
I love the beginning when she's approaching the house from just seeing Darcy and them, and she's making faces at her father through the window. She just sort of makes a face at him.
Yeah.
He kind of cracks a smile. That little moment there was very nice.
It was
the whole little intro of just like, this is the vibe in the family. It just kind of so clearly kind of establishes the different personalities, of which there are many.
Oh yes. I had trouble keeping them straight. I'm like, wait, which one? Which one is she?
See, well, that's interesting that you say that, because I feel, I'm very familiar with these characters, but I really feel like, Jane Austen wrote very distinct characters. Like the personalities with the five sisters are all very distinct. And I think the acting is really good. Like, I think you can, I don't know, I guess if it's
Kitty and Lydia can sometimes confuse people because those two are very close.
When they're dressed up and there's no dialogue, I'm like,
okay, well, that I could see, but like when they're talking, when they're
no, I totally, I know who they are.
Yeah,
but when they got dressed up, I was like,
boisterous. Like, she's the one who's always like laughing and giggling, and like she's just more like frenetic energy, and like Kitty is more like just kind of whiny.
Forgotten.
Forgotten.
She's a middle child.
She's a tag along.
It really doesn't have an arc. I can't think of Kitty's storyline arc. There is no arc for her.
The most.
There isn't really an arc for her or for Mary.
Yeah.
Although
Jane has one and Lydia has one.
I like how and they do this in other, I think they did this in another adaptation too, but like they're always like adding in this one this little flavor of like Mary being like interested in Mr. Collins. Like, it's all, there's no dialogue for it.
I know what
it's
you're talking about.
It's all just in the way the actress is playing it.
You're right.
I noticed that.
So there's a couple scenes where they throw that in there, which I think makes perfect sense, because like there's a bit of that in the book. Like, it's not like a plot, but like enough to like hint at it. And so I liked that the actress was like playing that up. Not that it doesn't give her an arc, but it gives her like a thing to be doing in scenes,
It gives her a little motivation for being there. So which is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, no, when they got dressed up and nobody was talking, I would have to sit there for a minute and go, wait, that was okay.
I can see just on the looks, but I think the acting and the personalities.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, are there any favorite scenes or bits of dialogue that you have for these two episodes?
Them dancing.
A lot of it
behind me, I really enjoy. But that's more episode, 2. That's like
a lot of the dialogue is straight from the book.
Oh my god!
I mean, they might change a word around here and there in the sentence.
Yeah.
Just to make it easier to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And because authors notoriously don't write dialogue for actors. It's just two different types. Yeah, it's not for being spoken. So I just lost my train of thought.
For me, it's Mr. Bennett's sort of dialogue. When his wife first approaches him about going to see Mr.
That's true. Yeah.
That dialogue he has there where it's a little monologue about, oh no, whatever shall I do?
True.
One of my
the snugness of it made me laugh.
He has so many good lines. One of my favorite lines of his always in the book, and they kept it like straight in there, was it's the second episode where like at the end where Mrs. Bennet is trying to get him to like intercede when Lizzie refuses Mr. Collins. And she's like, Lizzie says she will not have Mr. Collins, and Mr. Collins begins to say he will not have her, and then he's just like, what am I to do? It seems a hopeless business. And it's just his delivery and that line, it's just too funny.
I was just talking about the book and the shows that we've watched with my friend, our voice of warning, Ash and Crow, and I told him that as far as I can tell, just about every line from Mr. Bennet is a joke in some way. It's there for comedic purposes. Mr. Bennet has a wicked sense of humor.
He does,
and I think he's my favorite character in the book.
I'm like, so does she.
I think he's my favorite character in the book because of just him. I love Liz Bennet, but Mr. Bennet is just, I love Mr. Bennet. He's just too cool.
The scene, talking of one of my favorite scenes, this is a very like mild scene, but I think they did it really well. When Mr. Collins is first coming to dinner and he's having dinner with the Bennets, and just the way they executed it was really great because they added in all these little details. So a lot of it is Mr. Bennet's delivery. So like his handling of that scene, because he's like trying to like draw out the absurdity of Mr. Collins because it amuses him, and he's like laughing. And then like I just liked all the little details, like Lizzie having to like cover her face with the napkin so she couldn't laugh. And this was another scene where it was added in, like the Mary being like interested in him, and again, no dialogue, but just that was a really well done scene where Mr. Bennet's humor was on display.
I think my favorite scene was this miniseries' version of Mrs. Bennet trying to force Mr. Bennet to get her to marry Mr. Collins, and she's like, your mother won't see you if you do. If you don't, and I won't see you if you do. That was, I just really liked.
Perfect.
It was just played perfectly from the book. I think. So.
Yeah, so I think Jen, you brought up the dance scene, which is also great, and I'd wanted to say on that I think that's one of the hardest scenes to adapt. Because honestly, there's lots and lots of dialogue in the book, and they kept a lot of it. They couldn't keep all of it, but they kept a lot of it. And I think considering how much dialogue they kept, they managed to make it not too awkward with the dancing. But the reality is it's awkward. Like that kind of dance, to be talking as much as they're talking and have it like flow.
All the other people will be looking at you like, wait, can you guys shut up for a second? Like,
and it's funny too, because of course she starts the conversation like, well, it's awkward that we're not talking, so we should talk. And it's like, actually, it's awkward that you are talking, but okay. But still, I mean, that's the way the scene is written. So I think it's really hard to adapt. But they did a good job, and they kept a lot of the dialogue. I missed a couple, I feel like they took out like a few of Darcy's attempts at conversation, like where he's like raising, a possible topic. And like, I missed that a bit because the way they kind of cut it down, he comes across more like he's not trying to like engage her when we know that he is, right? So I think it's more obvious in the book that he's at least trying to engage her.
Yeah, he's just very awkward at it in the book. And that comes across the page. Yeah, it comes across the page that he is very awkward.
Awkward for sure, but like he is trying attempts to, like, he'll ask like, what do you think about books? Like he's trying to like find a topic that they can talk about, and they took out some of those. So I did kind of miss that.
All right. Let's move on to cinematography and all the other technical stuff, which includes the music.
Yeah.
Costuming is so good.
Very good. Very incredible. I mean, look at these people behind. Well, now my chair is in the way. I'm going to scoot back.
Yeah. Especially after the 1940 movie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The costumes in that 1940 movie. Leah went off last week about them. It's quite amusing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It is bad. I'm really happy with the costuming on this.
Very good.
I've always said I'm a sucker for period pieces and costume dramas, and this is one.
Yeah, I mean, the opulence. I mean, I think you feel like you're in Netherfield. You feel like you're at that party. They did a really good job of making you feel like you were kind of person floating around the room. You just kind of stayed with the Bennetts a little bit, but they did a really good job of drawing you into the concept of Pride and Prejudice with, hey, there's going to be a party. It's pretty chic. You need to come, and it's a really big deal, and there's going to be a lot of people here, and it's going to be very fancy. Like, they did a pretty good job with that. So I think they did a good job.
The other thing I liked about the costumes, and it gets more apparent as we go on further on in the episodes, is that they repeat. Like, they're, the Bennett sisters all have dresses that they wear on multiple occasions, and of course it makes sense. Like, they're not super rich, so they're not going to have like 50 different outfits. Whereas, like, I'm sure with like I don't know, like Bingley's sisters or whatever, like you're not going to see them like repeat outfits, but you do see it with the Bennetts, so which is nice.
Yeah, and it does make sense, like you said. I mean, we all got that really nice outfit we use when it's fancy time that stays in the closet when it's not. They would do the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right. And like the Netherfield ball, like what you can tell, like Jane and Elizabeth both had like on like fancier, like outer, like cloaks or coats. And so that was like a nice detail.
One thing I noticed with the cinematography, I noticed it at least twice, and I'm going to be watching for them to do it again in the next 4 episodes. But couple of times they framed the two people having the dialogue like right up here at the front, in the foreground, and between them in the background you see the person they're talking about. So and they've done it at least twice with Darcy, and just it stood out to me when I noticed it. And I'm sure other movies and shows have done it a ton of times. It's probably something I've seen a lot. It just it stood out when I noticed it a second time these 2 episodes. I like it.
Good catch.
I enjoyed the score more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
I like the music because I'm a classical fan, so might
I'm
not be able
usually
to name the pieces of music, but I recognized a few.
I'm usually not a big fan, but I think it lends a lot of sort of direction on the emotion of at least one of the characters. The music lends itself to what's going on with their emotions at that time.
Right.
So I'd say it's very well scored.
All right. You guys want to move on to actors?
Yeah.
Sure.
So who do you have at the top of your list for actor? I'm going to guess at least one person's going to say David Bamber as Mr. Collins.
Yeah, I was about to say, we got to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree he's excellent.
Yeah.
We've got to do that.
I had him. I also had Benjamin Whitrow down as
I
Mr.
did too.
Bennett.
He was my number 2.
Mr. Bennett. He's really great.
He's great.
And Jennifer as Elizabeth is my number 1.
Yeah, I think she has that like those expressive eyes. She's got like the sparkling like expression in her eyes.
An enchanting smile.
And her lip kind of quirks a little bit too, and she's like
when she's trying to like, she's got like a witty
yeah, she's like she's like that. And I'm like, I like that. She does a really good mouth work. Yeah. It's funny because I'm so sorry.
I was going to say, I believe she won a BAFTA for this miniseries.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I believe she did. Yes, she did. As a matter of fact,
she also has a great laugh, which is nice for Lizzie.
Yes.
Like, she's really good laugh.
Yeah.
And they won an Emmy for outstanding individual achievement in costume design.
And they should. It's very good costume.
Hello. I mean, somebody really got into that time period and sat down and was like, we're going to do this correctly.
I think this one's definitely my favorite for the costumes, I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing these one by one. So this is the first time I've ever read the book.
Okay.
And then, so the first one I ever saw was the 47 version.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm 2 episodes into this one, and I'm actually looking forward to episode 3, which is surprising. But I am enjoying this more than I enjoyed the book, even. Which
okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. You know, like you should get like the actors, you know, bringing that to it. So yeah, I love the book though.
I'll tell you the thing I picked up on the second read and third read of the book was, and I mentioned this last week, was the humor.
Yeah.
I never really picked up on
It's
how
very funny.
Funny.
It's very funny.
I was listening to it and I would catch myself doing literal laughing out louds. And I don't laugh out loud that often, you know, but I would be chuckling and, you know, my dad says, "What's that?" And I'm listening to something. I'm like, "Oh, okay." You know, but the comedy just,
it's really
good there. And yeah, people did really good job of bringing that comedy to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, on the book, like, I mean, I know the book is not everybody's like cup of tea, but it's very well written. Like, it's very funny, and the characters, like I said, she really creates very distinct characters, and obviously, like, not all of them have an arc, but like the arcs for Lizzie and Darcy are excellent. Like, very, very well written arcs. So
yeah,
it's a very well written story.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I will probably read other Austen. I probably won't read this book again. I've read it 3 times now.
Yeah.
I think that's all I need to read it.
It's a comfort book for me.
I think it's a mood read for me. If I'm in the right mood, I can appreciate it a lot more.
Okay.
When I want intense sort of personal relationship storytelling as opposed to, you know, Dungeon Crawler Carl or something else I'm listening to, or The Expanse, or, you know.
Yeah.
When I need a break from that, this is the kind of book I'd be like, okay, let's give that a re-listen.
I watched the Keira Knightley film for my comfort, so that's where I go.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
my current comfort read has been The Witcher.
The Witcher.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, as my comfort read lately, I'm just finishing up Lady of the Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, just finishing it up for like the 4th time. It's just been a stressful week, and I needed to chillax, and that was the most chillaxing thing I could think of.
Yeah,
everybody's got to have their comfort, you know, material, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. My biggest fave of my biggest comfort, anything ever. Sorry if you guys heard that my mic fell. Is an anime series, which I don't even like anime that much. But it's Yuri on Ice. But for those that care, anyway.
I was waiting for like Tokyo Ghoul. I'm like, really?
No. It's Yuri on Ice. It's gay ice skaters. But anyway, that's my favorite thing. But anyway, this is a close second.
This is good. Yeah.
It's ice
all right. Well, I forget where we were at.
We're moving from actors onto themes.
Oh, okay.
And
well, we didn't. We got to take a little bit more to talk about Colin Firth. We kind of talked about him for a second.
Oh yeah.
Like,
okay.
You know, he should be mentioned in this section too, because he really is excellent. And like I said, I think for him, it's just like seeing how much he brings to the scenes, even where he doesn't have dialogue. Like you can read layers in him, and he's excellent.
You definitely get the idea. There's more going on there than what he's presenting. Just from his sort of facial expressions and everything, you can see there's a lot cooking in there, and you know he's very good about playing that without saying it. And you know that I think that's the essence of great acting, is being able to emote without saying a word.
Yes, and he does that, which is so needed in this part. So
especially this part of the book.
So my favorite Colin Firth thing is him in The King's Speech. I really loved him as that. That's my favorite role he's been in. I haven't seen all of The Englishmen, but I know that he did very well as like the detective spy in that movie as well. And then obviously this. So I anytime I need a very mature Englishman that is very posh, and but also with a loving side, I think my go-to is Colin Firth.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant. Yeah, him and Hugh Grant are kind of in that box for me when I think of that sort of.
Oh, he also played. But he played Mr. Darcy twice. He played
in Bridget Jones' Diary.
Bridget Jones's Diary. Yeah. So Bridget Jones's Diary is technically that's an adaptation as well. We're not doing it, and we're not going to be covering that.
No,
but it is an adaptation. It is an adaptation that we technically could do. It's like a modern version of exactly Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
and he plays
Darcy.
Mr. Darcy, and not only the American audiences. And this is for the British. So he played Mr. Darcy twice in two very, very popular things.
Tells you how Darcy he is.
He's Darcy twice over, depending on if you're American. Wow. There's a lot of American people, younger people, that look at him as Darcy for a completely separate reason, even other than this BBC series, which obviously British people do too. So, yeah, he's Darcy squared, literally.
I haven't seen Bridget Jones's Diary in years. Now I'm thinking about going back and rewatching
I've never seen it
because I've never known it was.
Watch it now that you know that it's like a modern Pride and Prejudice. Go watch it.
Yeah, that's literally.
I think I'm gonna have to do that this
week. Hugh Grant is basically the Wickham.
That's what made me think. You mentioned Hugh Grant, and I'm like, he's actually in a Pride and Prejudice thing, but he doesn't play Darcy.
Wow. Yeah, but he's a.
I could see him as. I can totally see him as Wickham.
Yeah, because he can play that like a-hole kind of character.
Yeah. Yes.
Which he does.
All right. But yeah. So now should we move on to themes?
Sure.
I didn't. One thing I'm going to point out: a lot of the themes that we're going to talk about were present in last week's episode that we talked about.
Well, yeah,
and they're going to be in next week's and the weeks after and the weeks after. So I think we should go with themes that were added, maybe. I mean, we can talk about everything, but primarily focus on any themes that are specific to the show, if any.
I have one that's
compared to.
Well, I don't have one that's not added, but one that when you watch this, it's more prominent than when you watch the 1940. Does that make sense? Because every adaptation leans into one. And this one, it's more the state of the Bennett estate, like what's going to happen when Mr. Bennett dies. That wasn't covered as much in the 40s film because, again, I think it was the time you didn't want people to be thinking when the war was going on, sadness and death, and oh no, we're going to be whatever reason. This is more covering. Hey, there's a reason why Mr. Collins. Obviously, that's no matter what adaptation you're watching that's covered, but it was just, to me, it brought more of a light of they're not necessarily poor, but they bring you into the thing of we're gonna need to marry these sisters off because he's gonna die. So that was kind of a thing.
It's just the way the society was.
Yeah, it was more of a societal lean in this than I saw even in the adaptation I like, or in the 40s version. I think this is the best version of bringing you back to what it was like being a woman during that time period. I think this is the best representation of that.
Yeah, and their lack of complete and total control when it came to property rights.
Correct.
Things of that nature, which are just, were ridiculous.
Yeah.
The reason why it isn't just property rights in general, because some women did inherit, like Lady de Bourgh inherited.
Right. Lady Catherine,
or her daughter
will inherit.
I should say.
Yeah, but she did too. I mean,
specifically when there are places, it's specifically when properties have been entailed, when estates have been entailed, and that's some weird legal thing that they've got over there that actually still to some extent exists today in parts of the UK. Not in Britain, but in parts of, I think, Wales and Scotland, entailment can still happen.
What is entailment?
It's a weird thing that requires
I want to understand
inheritance law, and I didn't quite understand reading about it, but
sorry, I hate to be the person.
Do you know how to, Rebecca? Could you explain it?
I really can't in any kind of detail. I mean, the only way I understand it, just from this, is that basically, that it was not a direct imagine writing a will and you're like, okay, in my will, I'm leaving my estate to so-and-so. So rather than it being like that, it's like, well, if Mr. Bennett had a son, then the way it's written, it would go to the son. But since there is no son, then it goes. So it's like more complicated, but as opposed to like a direct inheritance, or where there's like contingencies of like this and that. But that I honestly, I don't know.
It's something one of the male ancestors had put into place,
right,
to ensure that,
like Mr. Bennett's father, or who knows, somebody,
stayed in the family under this name, but it's got to be a male.
Yep.
And it's all screwy, crazy, weird shit.
And it wasn't apparently. What's weird is that like it's not something that like Mr. Bennett himself, who is currently the owner of the state, could be like, well, it's mine now, so I can write my will how I want. It's like apparently he couldn't do that because otherwise, because he would.
Yeah, I wonder why
he's legally bound, legally forbidden from putting it. I mean, he could probably put it in his will, but I think the entailment would take precedence. If it went to court.
Right.
I do have the actual definition here. If you want.
Hold on. Oh, wait, we have a critical dragon also saying that, and yes, I do want to hear your
thing. AP.
Bill.
It is when a will specifies the class or lineage of inheritor, so estates can be left to the eldest male relatives, etc. Thank you, AP.
Okay.
And welcome, AP. It's just a crazy thing that it's beyond American minds to. I don't see Americans ever doing that.
American minds never
comprehend
this.
I was like, that's beyond.
The first place I ever encountered it was on Downton Abbey.
I watched some of that. I didn't get far enough because I like Maggie. Yeah, I like her a lot. So she was great in the show. The parts I saw,
it's also called Freetail and Tailsy in Scots Law.
Oh,
yeah,
it sounds so like
that's the article I was reading.
Something that's not fun. Okay.
So one of the themes right there is just how sexist, misogynistic inheritance law was in Britain during this time period. Actually, everywhere. Pretty much everywhere at this time period. There were some places women could inherit, but it wasn't a lot. So let's all be glad we live in the 21st century.
Well, I love the fact that Elizabeth is basically the antithesis of that. She's the complete opposite. She's free, she's funny, she's witty, and she doesn't really care. And everything about her sort of goes against that, what a demure lady is supposed to be. And for that, she's a rock star. So
the interesting thing about her, I think, is because like she does embody all that, but at the same time, like she knows like certain expectations of society that I guess because she maybe agrees with, she'll participate in, right? So like, I mean, compare her to Lydia. Lydia just does whatever the F she wants. And she doesn't care about like whether she's being rude or, like she's not like taking other people into account. Like Elizabeth is polite. Like she speaks her mind, but she does it politely, I guess, is like, something that you don't often necessarily see in a character, because sometimes when a character is written as someone who, speaks their mind fairly freely, they also might be just like rude or inconsiderate, which Lizzie is not. So it's an unusual, trait to see that. But I digress, I guess.
She is not absurd or impertinent.
She's not absurd or impertinent.
She sort of satires the entire idea behind, that oppression that's being applied to women, which is what through the whole book. That's one of the things I really liked about her was.
I mean, I have to imagine that Jane Austen probably didn't love those rules and laws and whatnot. I
definitely got that feeling. She wasn't happy about that.
So another theme that I was going to comment on, because I think, it's something that gets built upon throughout the whole story, and I think it's hard in this, very episodic, structure, the themes are not fully articulated in any given episode. So but a theme that's I think the big theme and is present throughout, and that they made a point of adding to in these episodes, was like the question of like, what should be the basis of a marriage? What reasons, are you going to have for marrying? Like, I mean, the conversation that was added between Jane and Elizabeth is the primary way that they added in these early episodes to that theme, and then it comes in too when Mr. Collins proposes to Lizzie and she refuses him. Like, she's not going to give in to, a societal expectation would be that she should marry him because her family's, relatively not poor, but like, they have limited income. And there's the entail, which means that, their future is very unsettled, right? And as has been discussed, like, marriage is the only assurance that she would have. So there's all these pressures on her to marry him. And if she married him, her family would keep that estate. She and her sisters go on living there, but she's not going to, So I think that is a big discussion of that theme, that it would be for her a terrible marriage, but there's still lots of societal reasons and expectations and pressures on her to do it. But her philosophy or her her desires are something else entirely. So, and then it's explored a bit through the Bennett's marriage as well, because there's a real personality, odd personality match there in that marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think Charlotte has a chance of having a happy marriage?
Oh, I've thought about this.
Yeah, I mean, that's more in the next episode, but
yeah.
Sorry, if the idea popped in my head and I had to ask.
No, it's definitely,
my brain was going to burst if I didn't ask.
A big part of this theme discussion, because that's exactly, so.
We'll see.
She's not as put off by him as other people are. I will say that. So can anybody, anyway, I won't say I'll stop because that's kind of, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Well, I don't, it's just, we're spoiling for next episodes as well, I guess. I was like,
fine, it's fine.
Well, I mean, throughout, even in like the books, she understands obviously who Mr. Collins is, right? She's not unaware that he's that ridiculous, obviously.
No, she's not.
But she's not as skeezed out. I don't know what the term would be, as other people are. She seems the most understanding before there's even a blip of proposes. When he was still maybe considering, like, hanging out at the estate with the Bennetts, she wasn't interested in him at all. But she was just like, right. Well, that's just who he is. She seemed to be more acceptant of him. I don't know what's going to be like as they age together. But, if he just goes on like preaching and retires more from being from social gatherings and is just hanging out the house, so she can stay in her own room. I don't know if she can ever really be happy, but I think it's all comparative. I think she's the only person in that ball that has met Mr. Collins that has a chance at being more happier married to him than before. Everyone else would be more miserable after marrying him than she would. She's the only person, I think, there literally that would have a chance at a happier life overall after marrying Mr. Collins than literally any other lady would in that room. So she has... To me, it just makes the most sense for her own personal happiness. No one can technically be like, oh my God, I love Mr. Collins. Hell yeah. Like, that would not, it's not happening. It's not even happening. It's not even on the radar. But like, she's the only person that her quality of life and her general, when she wakes up in the morning and she thinks, what do I need to get done today? And then goes to sleep, the daily drudgery of life, I think she is happier afterwards. So yeah. All of her life is going up And that's sad. That's really sad. That only just brings into focus how sad she is, and she's trying a really good job of not being that way when you're first introduced to her as a character.
Yeah, I can see her like she's looking at some of the benefits, which is she'd gain a certain amount of independence. Like the house would be hers to run, you know, like she's not living with her parents and all her siblings, and you know, she has a little bit more independence in that way. And presumably being more intelligent than her husband, she might feel like she can direct him to an extent of like, you know, kind of getting him to do some of what she wants. I think she's not looking to be like, she's not looking for happiness to come from her marriage, I guess. Like she says, like she has a different philosophy of marriage. Like it's an economic proposition for her, and that's it. And she's not looking for any like happiness in that relationship. You know, maybe she would find happiness being a mother, perhaps. I don't know. I don't feel like that's really explored, but maybe.
No.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think the two of them will ever like have like true like companionship. Like I don't think they'll ever like really enjoy each other's company. I don't see that happening. I mean, okay, he'll think he enjoys her company because whatever, but she will never, I don't think, enjoy his company.
That kind of sums him up. He will, because like whatever, he's just that way. That sums him up.
Like so disconnected from reality that, you know, who knows.
I was having an image pop into my head of the two of them, and it took me a minute to realize I was picturing a scene back in the last week's episode, the 1940 movie, where Mr. Collins was starting to get a little too excited with a drink in his hand, and she turns around, reaches and grabs it from him and takes the drink out of his hand. And he's just like, oops, like she kind of started getting her thumb on him, you know, to getting him to obey, you know, or like listen to me when we're.
I think that's what she's going to do. Yeah. Because she's just going to try to like keep him in check.
I can't say anything. My wife is the boss, and I don't even pretend like I'm in charge. So, I mean, if it works, it works.
There's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But like, it's just like, you know, if the question was like, I mean, to me, boiling it down to like, could they enjoy each other's company? No, I don't think so.
I have to agree there.
I could see her molding him into something more, honestly. I can see her molding him up a little bit from some of his more, I don't know, creepy aspects that aren't done on purpose. I mean, they're not done out of malice.
If he were a real human being, maybe. Like, I just think like as a character,
okay. That's a point.
Like, he's like the least human character. I think he's very much a caricature. It's okay. It's like he's very funny, you know, to read about or to watch. But
and Bamber is just so good at it.
Yeah, he is.
He is just.
But as a character, he's not very human. So it's hard for me to imagine him evolving because he's Mr. Collins. Like, I don't know how he's ever going to change.
I'm not sure I want him to. Within the confines of the story, he is amazing, amazing character. He's not a great person, but he's an amazing character.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, you're like Mr. Bennett. You're just like, you know, and you just want to like keep writing to him so he can keep writing his absurdities back to you and just entertain you for life.
Look, seriously.
Mr. Bennett is just too funny.
He's the dad. He's the dad with the capital D. He's got 5 girls running around. He's like, he has to keep a cool head on his shoulders.
Silly little girls.
Yeah,
they're all silly.
He's like, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean?
He does say Elizabeth has a slice of intelligence.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what he says at the beginning.
Yeah. She's clearly his fave.
There's so much sarcasm coming out of him.
Oh, I know.
And snide comments, and you know, it's just. And when he's getting barbs into his wife, I was about to say that's his wife
too. So he wakes up and he has that lady for a wife and those 5 daughters. Can you imagine? That's how he probably lives his life. He has to do it through wit because that's what he has. He's probably at his wit's end all the time. That's how he gets through life.
So, anything else anybody wanted to bring up about this adaptation?
Just I'm looking forward to actually continuing, which is surprising for me. So I'm not, like I said, I'm enjoying this more than I enjoyed the book. So
I like it.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how many times did you read through the book? Just the once?
Yeah, just the once.
Okay. But you did that recently, so.
Yeah. I finished it 3 days ago. So
I have no idea what my number of reads and watches are. I've read it more than I've watched any of the adaptations, but I've read it a bunch.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 book reads under my belt, and this is my second time the second and third time watching this miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be basically the same for the one we cover with Keira Knightley. But I have yet to read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, either read the book or seen the movie. That I'm looking forward to soon. We're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing that in a few weeks with our friend AP. He'll be back joining us for that.
Nice.
Looking forward to that.
Yes.
Thank you guys at home for watching. Please leave us a like, subscribe, leave some comments down below. And hey, don't forget to be awesome.
Yeah.
Bye.
Where's the dad? There.